What if I told you? Some of the world's most terrifying serial killers weren't born monsters. They were made. Made in homes filled with violence. Made in silence. Made in neglect. Tonight, we're diving into the disturbing question. Were there warning signs? And did the mistakes inside their childhood homes help create the killers they later became? Let's begin. Welcome back to the channel. If you're fascinated by the psychology behind true crime, hit that subscribe button because we break down the darkest minds in history. This is every mistake parents made that created serial killers. 1. Severe abuse and violence at home. Many infamous serial killers grew up in homes where violence wasn't rare, it was normal. Take Ted Bundy. Though Bundy later claimed he had a normal childhood, deeper investigations revealed disturbing secrets. He was raised believing his mother was his sister. His biological father's identity was uncertain, and there were rumors of abuse within the family. That confusion and emotional instability shaped his early identity. Then there's Aileen Wuornos. Wuornos endured extreme abuse. Abandoned by her parents, sexually assaulted at a young age, and forced into survival on the streets, her childhood was filled with trauma. By the time she became a killer, violence was already deeply wired into her survival instincts. And perhaps one of the most chilling examples, Richard Ramirez, also known as the Night Stalker. Ramirez grew up watching his cousin, a Vietnam War veteran, describe brutal killings in graphic detail. He was exposed to violence and abuse early on, and even witnessed murder. Trauma wasn't just present, it was normalized. When children grow up seeing violence as power, empathy often dies. 2. Emotional neglect and lack of attachment. Not all damage leaves bruises. Some of the most dangerous killers came from homes that were emotionally cold. Consider Jeffrey Dahmer. Dahmer's parents had a toxic marriage filled with constant fighting. His mother struggled with mental health issues, and his father was often absent. When his parents divorced, they both moved away, leaving Dahmer alone in the house at 18. Completely alone. That emotional abandonment became isolation. Isolation became obsession. He began experimenting with dead animals as a child, a major warning sign that went largely ignored. Then there's John Wayne Gacy. Gacy grew up with a father who constantly belittled him, calling him weak and worthless. He was beaten and humiliated regularly. When a child grows up feeling worthless, they may grow into someone desperate to feel powerful. For some, that power turns deadly. 3. Ignoring early warning signs. Many serial killers displayed disturbing behaviors as children. Psychologists often reference the McDonald triad, 3 warning signs linked to violent tendencies. Bedwetting beyond normal age. Animal cruelty. Obsession with fire setting. While not every child with these traits becomes violent, many serial killers showed at least one. Albert Fish was known to harm himself and others from a young age. Dennis Rader, the BTK killer, described fantasizing about torturing animals as a child. But instead of intervention, there was silence. Parents dismissed it as just a phase. Teachers ignored it. Communities looked away. And sometimes, that silence became deadly. 4. Extreme control or religious oppression. On the flip side, some serial killers were raised in extremely strict, oppressive homes. Ed Gein grew up under a fanatically religious mother who taught him that women were sinful and evil. She isolated him from society and controlled nearly every aspect of his life. When she died, Gein spiraled into madness, digging up graves and committing horrifying crimes that later inspired movies like Psycho, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Silence of the Lambs. His mother's extreme psychological control warped his view of reality, especially women. Over-control can be just as damaging as neglect. 5. But, is it only the parents? Here's where it gets complex. Not every abused child becomes a killer. Not every neglected child turns violent. Millions experience trauma and never harm anyone. So what makes the difference? Psychologists believe it's a combination of genetics, brain abnormalities, trauma, environment, and sometimes pure psychopathy. Blaming parents alone oversimplifies something far darker. But one thing is clear. Healthy attachment, emotional support, early intervention. They matter. They matter more than we realize. In conclusion, serial killers aren't created overnight. They're often shaped slowly, quietly, behind closed doors. Through violence, through neglect, through silence. But understanding these patterns isn't about sympathy. It's about prevention. Because sometimes, the scariest crimes begin in the most ordinary homes. If you found this breakdown disturbing but insightful, subscribe for more deep psychological true crime stories. And tell me in the comments, do you believe serial killers are born or made? I'll see you in the next one.